All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to discuss developing cyber resilience using Microsoft security solutions, specifically focused on state, local, and education organizations, or SLED. As cybersecurity threats continue to evolve and target our public sector institutions, it's crucial that we understand how to maximize your existing Microsoft investments to build your cyber resilient organization. First, I want to introduce R3 for anyone that is unfamiliar with us. So R3 is a full service MSP and MSSP and compliance service provider based in Washington, D.C. We have offices across the U.S., including Boston and the Northeast. We provide strategic guidance on security, compliance, and IT initiatives, as well as boots on the ground managed services. R3 is a risk compliance advisory partner of Microsoft's, as well as a direct cloud service provider, a managed partner and solution designated in security and modern work. I'd also like to take a quick moment to thank Microsoft team for their assistance in putting this webinar together. And last, I want to cover some quick housekeeping items before we get started. Number one, feel free to add questions into the chat. I'm joined by our head of marketing, Pepper Coe, who you may hear chime in from time to time if there are questions. I have several slides to get through, so if necessary, we will be sending a follow-up email to answer any questions we do not get to. Additionally, this webinar is being recorded and will be sent out to everyone in attendance. And finally, if you have any initiatives that could use support or general guidance, my contact information will be at the end of this presentation, and you can also find R3 at www.r3-it.com. With that being said, let's dive in. To get us started, let me briefly introduce myself. I'm Stephen Jones, Vice President of Cybersecurity here at R3. I bring 16 years of experience in information security and cybersecurity to this discussion. My background includes working with the U.S. intelligence community, where I built, managed, and matured classified security operations centers. I also co-founded Deepwatch, which is a pure-play commercial MSSP. Now, this mix of public and private sector experience, I think, gives me a unique perspective on the challenges that SLED organizations are facing today. So today's presentation will cover 5 key areas. We're going to start with the introduction to cyber resilience and then dive into the current SLED cyber landscape. After that, we're going to talk about maximizing your Microsoft security investment, looking at what you already have and how you integrate it into your cyber resilience plans. We'll explore zero trust architecture for public sector organizations, examine essential security capabilities, and finally look at practical steps for getting started with cyber resilience at your organization. We'll conclude with a Q&A session to address your specific questions and scenarios. All right, so let's get started with a quick look at the current cyber landscape for SLED, and then an introduction to what cyber resilience really is. Now, the numbers we're looking at here tell a compelling story about the state of cybersecurity in the public sector. On average, it takes 288 days to identify and contain a breach in a public sector organization. That's nearly 10 months, and the cost is a staggering $2.13 million per breach. Now, what's particularly concerning is the 95% increase in phishing attacks targeting government agencies in 2023. I expect that to be even worse in 2024. Yet only 27% of states have a dedicated cybersecurity budget. Now, this creates a perfect storm where threats are increasing, but resources aren't keeping pace. So let's look at the primary challenges. We see 4 key issues. Limited cybersecurity budgets, which force difficult choices about security investments. A growing attack surface due to digital transformation, particularly accelerated by recent remote work initiatives. And complex regulatory compliance requirements that must be met despite resource constraints. And increasingly sophisticated threats that target public sector organizations. Now let's take a look at some recent examples that highlight these challenges. Over just the past year alone, we've seen a concerning pattern of attacks specifically targeting government systems. Starting in July of 2023, Georgia's court systems were hit with a cyber attack that disrupted operations statewide. By October, we saw the city of Oakland revealing they'd spent $10 million just in recovery costs from their February ransomware attack. In November, Fulton County, Georgia experienced a ransomware attack that impacted both their court systems and their tax offices. Moving into 2024, we saw the city of Dallas facing ransomware attack that disrupted multiple city services. And most recently, Los Angeles County Superior Court fell victim to an attack that closed all 36 courthouses. Now, these aren't isolated incidents. They represent a clear pattern of targeting government infrastructure, particularly justice systems and critical municipal services. So, looking at the current trends, we're seeing ransomware consistently targeting specific sectors of the government systems. Court systems, emergency services, tax offices, municipal utilities are particularly attractive targets because disrupting these services creates immediate pressure to pay ransoms. It also gets a whole lot of publicity. The attack patterns have evolved to become more sophisticated, and we're seeing an increased focus on data theft before encryption, which is giving attackers now two ways to extort an organization. First, to decrypt data, and second, it's called a double extortion attack, where they're extorting the organization with the release of the information after the fact. Strategic targeting of managed service providers to reach multiple agencies through a single breach, and a concerning trend of timing attacks for holidays and weekends when staffing is typically lower and response capabilities are reduced. So let's talk a little bit about cyber resilience now that we kind of understand the landscape and the severity of the attacks. Do we really know what cyber resilience means? Think of cyber resilience as a building supported by four key pillars: cybersecurity, business continuity, disaster recovery, and incident response. Unlike traditional cybersecurity, which focuses primarily on prevention, cyber resilience acknowledges that some incidents are inevitable. I always say that it's not if, it's when. The goal is to ensure that your organization can continue operating effectively even while it's under attack. For government organizations, this is particularly crucial. Now, when a regular business faces disruption, they might lose revenue. But when government services are disrupted, citizens can't access essential services, justice systems grind to a halt, and critical infrastructure may be compromised. The foundation of cyber resilience is the ability to not just defend, but to prepare for, respond to, and recover from cyber disruptions while you're maintaining core operations. Now, that's the big difference. A lot of times we focus on cybersecurity, but resilience is really the new strategy. We need to understand that incidents will happen. So let's begin by examining your Microsoft security investment. Now, this section is crucial because many organizations already have powerful security tools at their disposal through existing Microsoft licensing. They just may not be fully utilizing them. So Microsoft's integrated security approach offers several unique advantages for SLED organizations. And let's break these down into four key areas. First, you can maximize your existing investment. Many organizations already have powerful tools, included in their M365 licensing, but you may not be fully utilizing them. And this means you can improve your security without additional spending, and that's key. Second, it's specifically built for government with FedRAMP and StateRAMP certifications, compliance manager for government requirements, and public sector specific features. Microsoft understands the unique needs of your government organization. Third, you get a unified security platform, and this means a single security dashboard, integrated threat intelligence, coordinated response capabilities, all of which are going to reduce the complexity and improve your efficiency. Finally, the integrated protection spans from identity to endpoint security, email to cloud protection, and document to device management, all through one integrated platform. And this comprehensive coverage eliminates gaps that often occur with multiple point solutions. So understanding the differences between E3 and E5 licensing is crucial for maximizing your security posture. So we're going to compare them side by side and look at what the difference is between them. With E3, you get a lot of basic security foundations. You get Microsoft Defender's antivirus, basic email filtering and data loss prevention, basic identity protection features like MFA, and basic conditional access. and basic information protection, including data classification and encryption. Now, on the E5 side, we significantly enhance these capabilities. You're going to get the full Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Plan 2 with the advanced hunting capabilities and the vulnerability management capabilities. You're going to get advanced identity protection, including risk-based conditional access. And this is huge for zero trust and cyber resilience, is really factoring risk into your conditional access policy. Privileged identity management for better control of admin accounts. These are often the entry points for threat actors or what they're aspiring to achieve. And so privileged identity management is a way to help prevent that. We're also providing significantly enhanced information protection features like insider risk management, as well as advanced e-discovery capability. Now, there are some commonly underutilized security tools in the Microsoft solution set as well. One of the biggest opportunities for improvements lies in better utilizing the tools you already have. So let's highlight some commonly underutilized features. Conditional access policies in E3, while included, we find that they're rarely fully configured. They can automatically block high-risk sign-ins and control access based on location, device health, and risk level. Data loss prevention. Many organizations implement basic DLP policies, missing out on powerful built-in government PII templates that already exist. Microsoft's Defender for Office 365 features like safe links and safe attachments often aren't configured to their full potential. And most importantly, Azure AD security defaults is an included feature that enforces basic security baselines, yet many organizations leave it disabled. So these are all things that you may have access to today that are easy to turn on with no additional cost. So let's talk about the financial impact of fully utilizing your Microsoft features. Consider these cost comparisons. So a standalone MFA solution by a third party could cost $6 to $12 per user per month. Separate email security gateways could range from $4 to $8 per user per month. Third-party endpoint protection might run you $8 to $15 per endpoint per month. But beyond direct costs, operational efficiency improves through the reduced vendor management, unified support structure, the integrated training, as well as the single pane of glass management. The risk reduction benefits are also substantial, with integrated threat intelligence and coordinated response capabilities. And we just discussed some of the more direct cost savings of utilizing your existing licensing. However, there are several significant hidden costs and benefits that often get overlooked. So I'm just going to highlight 4 key areas here where we see organizations typically seeing substantial savings. So simplified audit preparation. Now, when you're using Microsoft's integrated security stack, audit preparation becomes dramatically more streamlined. Instead of gathering evidence from multiple systems, creating separate reports, and reconciling different data sources, you have everything in one single place. There's the decreased administrative overhead. Think about your admin team's daily tasks. Instead of jumping between 5 or 6 different security consoles, managing multiple sets of policies, and maintaining separate update cycles, everything's managed through a single pane of glass. Now, we typically see organizations reduce administrative overhead by 25 to 30% just through console consolidation. The lower training cost is a huge benefit that often gets missed. When you're using a single unified platform, you're training your team on one integrated system rather than multiple disparate tools. Now, not only do you reduce direct training costs, but you also decrease the learning curve for new employees, enabling them easier cross-training among team members. There's reduced incident response time. Now, here's where the savings really compound very quickly. With integrated threat intelligence, automated investigation, and coordinated response capabilities, we see organizations reduce their incident response times by 50 to 60%. And when you're paying your IR team by the hour or worse, dealing with the cost of an extended breach, these time savings translate directly to bottom line impact. All right, we're going to shift gears and we're going to focus on zero trust architecture. And we're going to explore how this modern security approach specifically benefits public sector organizations and addresses their cyber resilience unique challenges. First, let's explain what zero trust is in straightforward terms by comparing two approaches to security. The old way was like a castle with a wall. Once you got inside, you had broad access to everything. Security focused mainly on the perimeter, and trust was based primarily on location. If you were inside the network, you were trusted. Now, this is the way networks have been set up pretty much prior to the last few years. Now, zero trust is way more like a bank vault in one of those Mission Impossible movies. Every single access request is verified. Trust is based on identity rather than location, and that's huge. And identity is the new perimeter. And security exists everywhere, not just at the perimeter. The core principle of zero trust is very simple, but still very powerful. Never trust, always verify. Every person, device, and connection must prove that they should have access every single time. Now, zero trust boils down to three fundamental questions that get asked every time someone tries to access resources. Who's requesting access? Now, this verifies the identity of the requester. Is the device secure? This is going to check the security state of the device. This could include patching, OS level, certain software that may or may not be present. And do they need this access? And this is enforcing least privilege. Think of it like a government building, maybe one that you work in today. So employees must show an ID every time they enter, and they can only access certain areas based on their role. So they need different keys for different rooms, and they must badge in every single time, even if you just stepped out for coffee. This real-world example perfectly illustrates zero trust principles in the network with something that you're actually doing in your buildings today. Now, Microsoft's zero trust framework is very comprehensive, and it covers 6 key areas. Identity is the new perimeter. You just heard me say that. I'll say that again. Identity is the new perimeter. And this is managed through Azure AD with strong authentication, identity verification, and automated threat response. Endpoints are secured through Intune with device health verification, compliance monitoring, as well as automated remediation. And data protection using Purview focuses on classification, protection, as well as access governance. Now, the framework also covers applications, infrastructure, and network security, each with its own set of integrated controls and protections. So let's look at a real-world SLED use case here with remote work security. So many SLED organizations are using some form of remote work post-pandemic, like everybody else. Remote work poses a few unique challenges. So the potential for unsecured personal devices to access government resources, networks, or data. VPN vulnerabilities that can be exploited to allow attackers access to internal networks. And then you have shadow IT, which is notoriously hard to identify in a traditional corporate environment. And remote work makes this even more challenging. We also have increased phishing attacks against your employees, which has been the trend year over year. However, Microsoft does have solutions to these challenges. So Intune can be used to enforce device compliance, as well as providing mobile device management, or MDM, and mobile application management, or MAM. Azure conditional access policies are fantastic for providing context-based access to networks, devices, and resources. And Microsoft's Defender suite provides comprehensive advanced threat protection across your devices, your cloud apps, and your cloud environments. And then Azure VPN can give you a safe, MFA-integrated access to remote workers. Let me walk you through our recommended implementation strategy. So we break this down into 3 distinct phases to ensure a methodical, controlled rollout. Phase 1 is our foundation, taking place in the first 0 to 6 months. Here we focus on the essential building blocks, establishing your identity and access baseline, and creating a comprehensive device inventory. It's really important to understand the total number of devices and where they are and what what their makeup is as you're building this baseline. Think of this as building the security foundation, and you need to get this right before you move forward. In phase 2, months 6 through 12, we move into enhancement. And this is where we're building upon the foundation we built in the first phase, and we're doing advanced access policies, implementing network segmentation for better control. We're setting up comprehensive monitoring. And this phase is really about strengthening and expanding your security posture. Now, phase 3, months 12 to 18, focuses on optimization. Here we refine our automation capabilities. We implement advanced analytics for better threat detection and ensure full policy enforcement across the organization. Now, there are several critical components here that we need to consider throughout this journey, and that is MFA and conditional access, network microsegmentation. So microsegmentation takes the concept of VLANing even a step further. With microsegmentation, we can create segments based on applications, based on specific IP ranges, roles, and functions. And this is a way to even further limit and establish least privilege to things and resources in your network. Data classification and encryption. And then access controls, again, based on least privilege principles. So finally, we have to keep in mind 4 key implementation considerations as well. And that's alignment with NIST Special Pub 800-207, which is the Zero Trust Architecture doc. FedRAMP compliance requirements, agency-specific security mandates. So your specific organization or agency may have its own security requirements that are over and above things that are in NIST or FedRAMP. And then planning for legacy system integration. And this is huge. I want to spend just a second talking about legacy system integration. Everybody has them. There's a system somewhere that's running a piece of software that can't be upgraded for a variety of reasons. And this legacy system really needs to be considered as you're planning your cyber resilience strategy and you're considering things like microsegmentation and access controls. A lot of times a legacy system means the software may not support newer security tools or some of these solutions that we're talking about. And so we need to plan for those accordingly. So just identify those things. Hopefully you know where they are and exactly what their situation is. But I cannot underpin enough the importance of planning for legacy system integration. These can often be weak points. These are often sought out and exploited by attackers. And so I really wanted to call out the importance of those legacy systems. Now, this phased approach that we're building here builds a robust security foundation while maintaining operational continuity. So this phased implementation means you don't have to take anything down, turn it off, minimal impact, but you can still make some significant improvement within 12 months. Now, let's dive into the essential security capabilities Microsoft provides, and we'll examine 4 key areas that form a comprehensive security strategy. Let's start with identity and access protection. So this is foundational to modern security. I mentioned before, identity is the new perimeter. In terms of authentication, you've got multi-factor authentication, which should be your baseline. So MFA should be your baseline. There is also Windows Hello for Business, and this gives you a passwordless option. There are FIDO2 security keys for hardware-based authentication. And there are various passwordless options to improve both security and user experience. For access control, Microsoft provides conditional access policies. We've talked about those a couple of times already. These are fantastic tools. They're not terribly complicated to set up, but they're very effective. Conditional access policies can make real-time access decisions. Role-based access control to enforce least privilege, just-in-time access for elevated permissions. This is an excellent feature to ensure that admins aren't doing non-administrative functions with their admin accounts. So just-in-time access is where you can request an elevated permission for a set period of time to do an admin function, and then that permission is revoked and that user account goes back to a normal user. And then privileged identity management for admin accounts. We want to protect those admin accounts at all costs. The risk protection features include identity protection to detect suspicious activity, risk-based access policies that adapt to threat levels, and impossible travel detection to spot potentially compromised accounts. You may know this as geographically improbable logins or Superman logins. This is a very common type of attack that we at R3 see. And what this is user logs in their home city of, say, Washington, D.C., and then within an hour, they log in California or Canada or Mexico or somewhere that they could not physically have been to. That's where the impossible comes from. So we need to identify those things. If a user could not physically have made that trip, it's impossible to do on an airplane. We want to quickly identify those things. So information and data protection. Microsoft provides 3 key components. Data security includes Microsoft Purview DLP, data loss prevention, for comprehensive data protection, Azure information protection for document level security, and double key encryption for your most sensitive data. And then there's customer key control for enhanced encryption management. Now, some of these encryption capabilities, Microsoft manages the key, but you can see here they do have options for customer key control where you maintain the decryption keys for the encryption protocol. And that way you can ensure that you're using the very best security and policies for managing that. And Microsoft doesn't have access to it. Data governance features. So there's sensitivity labels to classify and protect data. This is something that Purview can help with, classifying your data and understanding which things may be sensitive or risky. You can create policies to restrict access to those things to certain roles and people. Retention policies to meet compliance requirements. And then e-discovery tools for investigations. So if you ever have to go back and do incident response, e-discovery tools are going to be huge for being able to sort through all of the Azure and Microsoft data and find the things that you're looking for. And then protection across environments, ensuring coverage for email through Exchange Online protection, documents in SharePoint and OneDrive, endpoints with device protection, cloud apps through CASB integration. So all things to consider here from an information and data protection standpoint. Now, threat protection, Microsoft's threat protection strategy centers around their Defender XDR. And for endpoints, we have EDR capabilities for advanced detection and response. That Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is one of the highest rated EDR capabilities on the market. Attack prevention to stop threats before they execute. This is great. This is the endpoint actually responding to what's going on and stopping the execution of something it deems malicious in real time. Behavioral monitoring to spot suspicious activities. For email and collaboration, email is, I'm sure, a majorly used resource in your organization, just like it is in ours and lots of others. Anti-phishing protection, safe links and attachments, where Microsoft is pre-scanning those links that are included in emails. Advanced threat detection. The platform does include robust threat intelligence capabilities. So Microsoft's Global Threat Intelligence Network. We just recently did an event with Microsoft, and I heard the staggering number. I think it was 7 billion data points per day is what Microsoft's Global Threat Intelligence Network is collecting. That's a staggering amount of information. Advanced hunting for proactive threat detection, and then automated investigation to speed up response. And then, of course, comprehensive threat analytics. All right, so now that we understand the capabilities, we've talked about what cyber resilience is. Let's focus on how to implement them effectively. So the next few slides, we're going to provide a practical roadmap for your security journey. So let's start with actions you can take immediately to begin your cyber resilience journey with the Microsoft solutions. And we've broken this down into 3 time frames, right? So first 24 hours, enabling MFA for all admin accounts. And this is absolutely critical. If you have not done this today, this is a quick win that you can knock out. You can review your global admin accounts as well and remove unnecessary privileges. Look at how many global admin accounts you have. Do you really need all of those? Enable unified audit logging. So we want to be able to collect audit logs across all of the solutions and capabilities. We want to block legacy authentication, which is going to prevent outdated access methods. So legacy authentication is just usernames and passwords without an MFA capability. In the first week, we can extend MFA to all of your users. We can configure some basic conditional access policies. And then we can also enable Microsoft Defender for Office 365. So if you're not using another email gateway, or if you're already using Defender for Office, we need to get that set up so that Microsoft is helping screen your email for phishing, spam, malicious links, and all of the other junk that comes through email that we all deal with every day. And that first week, we can also set up security defaults. This is huge. At least get the defaults set up. This gives you a building block and a place to move from. Now, within the first month, we can deploy Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So that's putting that advanced EDR capability on every workstation and server. They also support mobile devices as well. We can implement basic DLP policies. So data loss prevention, making sure that social security numbers, credit card numbers, or any other data, you can define custom policies here. Any other things that you don't want leaving your organization can't. You can configure sensitivity labels for data inside of your environment. You can also enable Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, which is going to give you an additional set of logs for the other SaaS applications that you may be using inside of the Azure cloud. So let's break down a realistic 90-day implementation. So days 1 through 30 are the foundation phase. Again, deploying identity protection, starting with MFA, configuring those conditional access policies, enabling basic security features, enabling the security defaults. So all of this is really, this is an even more realistic timeline here. Building every month on what you did the month prior and making sure that you're using these Microsoft solutions. Now, what does it look like from a resource requirement, right? We've talked about rolling these things out, and you might be saying, great, that's wonderful. What do I need in order to do this? So let's take a look at that. Your required team roles, you're going to need a core team, which is going to comprise your security administrators, your identity administrators, your security operations analysts. So you remember the first step we took was really impacting this group, turning MFA on for them, setting some basic policies. You're going to need not only their help, but this is the group that we are targeting first because they have the most access. They have the most privilege in the environment. You're also going to need some supporting roles, your network administrator, your systems administrator, your help desk support. As you roll these solutions out, you need to anticipate things like questions and things that may not go according to plan. Your help desk is going to field those calls, but you're going to need systems administrators, network administrators to help you implement some of these things across the board as well. And then you have some optional specialists like your cloud security architects, your data protection specialists. That data protection piece is a huge component here. Purview has a lot of very granular controls that you can enable and that you can leverage. And you're going to need some folks that really understand data protection and to apply those sensitivity labels, to apply all of the permissions and groups. And then moving on to technical requirements. So Azure AD premium licenses, Microsoft 365, either E3 or E5. You're going to need some management workstations, some monitoring tools. You're probably going to want a testing environment, right? We're not going to want to roll these things out to production. We're really going to want to test these first and make sure that we're not going to break any critical function. And then, of course, backup and recovery systems. If you're not backing up and testing your recovery capabilities, this is one of the core components, disaster recovery and business continuity. These things are going to be absolutely critical to your cyber resilience posture. And then, of course, Microsoft provides comprehensive
Hey,
support and
Jones.
training for resources. There are all kinds of training paths, including the Security Fundamentals path, which has SC 900, MS 500, AZ 500, all kinds of free training as well. And you can do these self-guided. There are boot camps that are available through other third-party vendors. You have advanced security paths as well. So again, you can put people on paths based on their role in the organization, based on their skill levels here. And then there's very specialized training. So you can get, Microsoft provides a wonderful set of specialized training courses for each of their solutions and capabilities. So all of these are available out there and in resources that you should be leveraging and integrating. And with that, it looks like I got done just a touch early, but as we wrap up, I'd like to open up the floor for questions. And given the complexity of security implementations, I encourage you to ask about specific challenges in your environment, implementation concerns, licensing questions. I'll do my best to answer those. We may have to follow up if we get one that I'm unable to answer. Any technical details about what we discussed. And as I mentioned before, you can reach me after the presentation. My contact information will be on the next slide. I'm happy to have more detailed discussions about your specific security needs if there's something that I can help with. So with that, thank you for your attention today. Remember, security is a journey, not a destination. Start with the quick wins we discussed, build your foundation, and gradually enhance your security posture. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need guidance along the way. And with that, I will open it up. I think I saw a question pop in a moment ago. Oh, no questions in here at the moment, but there is one in the chat. Is the email anti-phishing protection recommended to use with a separate email protection solution since Microsoft Threat Protection does not capture most? So you can certainly add other appliances or other services in front of Defender 365. It does have a variety of granular control options, but there are services out there that can sit in front of it to aid with the identification of phishing and spam and other unwanted email. So that was a question I saw in the chat. Great question, by the way. Thank you. Hopefully that answered your question. Any other questions? I do not see any here. Give everybody just a second in case somebody does have one. All right, it doesn't look like, oh, here we go. Will the slides be available? Yes, the slides will be sent to all attendees. Absolutely. All right. No additional questions. With that, again, I thank you all for joining us. And if there's anything we can do, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, have a fantastic rest of your day.